My guest today is Lee Betts. Lee is building a holding company called Betsco. Betsco owns stakes in 8 different businesses. Each business has its own CEO, and Lee gets to help and advise other entrepreneurs during their 0 to 1 phase. He's buying, starting, and investing in wonderful internet businesses. Thanks a lot for coming to the Holdco Builder show, Lee.
No, thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
You're an excellent person to talk to, as you are already building what I guess so many people want to build, so many entrepreneurs want to build. So before that, let's start from the beginning. I was just doing a research on you, and I found that at age 13 to 14, you were working 11 hours a day as a laborer, earning £3.5 an hour during the school holidays. So it was a very hard work, often in the rain, and you hated every second of it. That's what you said. And you weren't afraid of doing hard work already at a very young age. So how were the early days for you? What were your passions, interests, strengths, and weaknesses?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't think it was that strange at the time, but now you say it back like that, it kind of sounds like child labor. But no, it was hard work. I wanted to earn money. I was young. I wanted spending money. So I did it, and I just assumed that was the way you got money. So, but yeah, I was very lucky. I came from a very loving family. We didn't have tons of money. I didn't grow up around a lot of people that ran businesses or were successful, so I didn't really see that as an option. But looking back now, I don't know if you've read the book Wanting by Luke Burgess at all.
I haven't.
No, but it talks about a lot about mimetic desire and how most of the things we want come from what we see others have. And I had a friend growing up, and his parents were rich, and I always wanted the things he had, and I couldn't get them. And I wonder now whether that might be the reason that I went in this direction and was chasing money so much, is because I've got this inner driving from that childhood. But who knows?
So considering there are so many different opportunities when it comes to business, when it comes to making money, how did you end up doing what you're doing today?
I was fairly entrepreneurial as a kid. I was flipping things on eBay when I was at school. I think a lot of it comes down to environment and luck. So a lot of my friends were going to university. I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for that, but I was pushed in that direction. So I'm very lucky for that. And I ended up studying entrepreneurship. I can't tell you how or why, but I did. And I guess, yeah, that put me on the right path. I then failed a lot of businesses, had a lot of failures along the way, lots of lessons, and eventually started doing freelance marketing to pay back some of the money I'd borrowed for the failed ventures. And that got me into the world of marketing and marketing agencies and things like that. And that eventually led to me starting a marketing agency, which was the beginning, really.
Reading a lot about marketing agencies and how a lot of people, especially young people, I would say in early 20s these days, are trying to build marketing agencies because they're very profitable. And this, what you've done is you've been going and doing the next step or a next step forward, if we can say that, as they're very profitable, this allows you to reinvest the profits into acquiring and investing in other interesting businesses. And Andrew Wilkinson from Tiny is doing the same thing, and what we were just discussing. And he started this 2006, if I remember correctly. You started in 2017. So
Yep.
Going back to those early days, you also said that you tried to sell your agency via using a broker, but the experience sucked. It wasn't good. You wasted hundreds of precious hours talking to tire kickers and prepping for a sale that pretty much never happened. 2 questions. Why did you want to sell the business? And overall, tell us about the time and why was it such a bad experience?
The agency is a cold email agency, and I just assumed that it wouldn't have much future. So I decided that I should sell it and I should go and start something sexier, something that had a better future. So I went through the sales process. I worked with a broker. I spent, tens, maybe hundreds of hours prepping the business, talking to potential buyers. We got a few offers, but what I naively didn't realize was that most offers are heavily seller financed. Most people want to put a very small amount down. They want to sell a finance over many years, and they also want you to have an earnout. And in my mind, I didn't see the point of selling for 3x profit and then only getting 20% of the payout a year for 5 years. It's like I could earn more if I just owned the business. So it makes no sense to me. And I've come to realize that most offers are like that. There's very few people that are willing to put a lot of cash up front. And so it's very hard to find a buyer that will give you, like an early out and the cash you're looking for.
Do you think it's because of the business model, agency, or have you talked with other entrepreneurs and you find this to be pretty common in other industries as well?
Maybe. I know definitely in the agency world, most offers tend to be seller financed. I'm not so sure in other worlds whether that's sort of standard practice or not. Maybe you can tell me. What do you think?
Sometimes on a first meeting, when meeting a business I would like to acquire or make an investment, I oftentimes ask, like, do you consider this as well, or it's a no-go right away? Because if it's a no-go, there is probably we are not interested in doing this. So
Sure.
because again, no one really wants to pay a lot of cash upfront. The seller financing makes the returns better and to manage the risk better. And so I'm talking about very traditional businesses which been around for 25, 30 years. And again, if the founder says that they would like to exit like 100% right away and get all the cash and just maybe stay for 2-3 months, then this is a massive red flag, because why are you wanting to leave right away? So we are looking for probably what the buyers of your agency were looking for, similar opportunities.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I completely understand that incentives have to be aligned. But yeah, so that's what I found, and I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't desperate to sell. So after all that effort, we didn't, unfortunately.
But what about the period? Was it a half a year period, a year-long period, or maybe just a few weeks which you were spending on trying to sell your business? Why I'm asking is, like, the next step was the next step from you was completely different. What I mean is, you decided that, okay, what we do is actually very awesome. I would like to keep doing this, and now I would like to reinvest the profits into other businesses. Like, how was it's a massive mindset shift. Like, how did it all happen?
I spent a few years trying to start other businesses, and I really wasted a lot of money and a lot of time because they were very sexy businesses that were billion-dollar ideas, but they really needed more than just part of my time. They couldn't be done as a side project, and they really probably needed funding to grow properly. So I spent a few years doing that. I wasted my time. Then I realized that actually the agency was still going strong despite me neglecting it. So I doubled down and I doubled the size of the agency. And then it was really about learning a lot about allocating capital. We had a lot of money sitting on the balance sheet, and I was like, what are we going to do with it? Do we put it in stocks and shares? There's nowhere else to reinvest it back in the business. So what do I do with it? And that's when I came across Andrew Wilkinson and his model, which I loved. And started doing a lot more learning and researching. And that's why I went down that path of using the profits to invest and start and incubate other businesses.
Can you give a bit of overview on how the agencies work? And I mean number-wise, because in the beginning you're probably serving maybe 2 or 3 clients. At the same time, you're paying salaries, and it's maybe not even breaking even, and it's you're losing money. Then you have a next phase where you have more customers, money is coming in. You don't need to hire more people to provide the service, and then there's probably third, fourth, fifth level of where you can automate some things, outsource some things, and from one moment the agencies will become like extremely profitable. Can you maybe share different steps and phases and levels of the agency world?
So one of the most important things we did was productize our service. So a lot of agencies will offer a lot of different services. People will come to them and say, we need this, we need this, we need this, and everyone will get a different service at a different price. That becomes extremely hard to manage. So what we did was we said, we have one service and one price, and that's what we sell. and you can scale. You can run multiple campaigns of that same service. It was a set number of emails per week that we would send for a client, and they can scale that up. But it made it extremely simple and extremely predictable. So we knew every client we did the same thing for. And we just made it very scalable. So for all of our clients, we would do the same thing. So if we were going to send them a report, we'd send all of their reports at the same time on a Friday. If we were going to send them all of their data, we'd send all their data at the same time on a Monday. If we were going to send their emails, we'd send all their emails at the same time on a Wednesday. That made sure we could bunch the tasks together and made it much more scalable. And then it's about just building a predictable revenue model. So we knew that with our marketing, we could get X number of calls per week at X price. And we knew exactly what our close rate was because we tracked everything meticulously. We knew exactly what our customer lifetime value was. And then it was just a case of working out the numbers and seeing if that works when it scales. And it did. So we could just hire more salespeople, train them to do what we do. We have a very set process in terms of pitch, onboarding, and then everything's very predictable, very scalable. And that was much because we did the productized service.
Let's talk a little bit about the current portfolio. You own stakes in 8 different businesses, revenue over 3 million, and each business has its own CEO. Can you just give me an overview of your current portfolio? Of what type of businesses, what type of clients they're serving? Is it in Europe? Is it in US? How does it all work?
Yeah, so most of them are agencies. So typically B2B agencies, because that's the world I came from, that's the world I knew. So I didn't want to go too far away from that. I really focus on businesses that I know well and that I know how to grow. And ideally services that I've used before. So I have a web design agency. I'm about to invest in a Filipino outsourcing agency because we hire a few Filipinos and they're amazing. I invest in an AI consultancy that we also use in our agency. So it's really about finding the services that we love, businesses we love. And they're mainly B2B agencies. Sorry, was that the whole question? Did it?
Yeah, you said also each has its own CEO, but we will get into day-to-day very
Sure.
soon. So what is the typical a process for you? What type of characteristics you're looking for when it comes to those agencies? Because I guess there are thousands of those.
Of course, yeah. So the key for me is being able to know how to scale them. And I'm very lucky because at our agency, we've done campaigns for over 2,000 companies. So I can almost always go back and find a few campaigns that we ran for similar types of companies, have a look what their numbers were, what their cost per acquisition was, have a look at their TAM, make sure they've got a big enough market, the customer lifetime value is decent. And if I already know how to grow them, and we've got past campaigns, and I know the cost per acquisition, and I know the ratio to their customer lifetime value, then it becomes a bit of a no-brainer. As long as the company is then, it's got a good business model and a great founder, that's the key. And we already know how to grow it, then it becomes a no-brainer for us.
What have been the average multiples when doing those deals?
So it really does vary. If we're incubating a business, it's obviously hard to put a multiple because there's, maybe none or very little profit there. But in terms of average, when we're buying a minority stake, probably around 4. As I said earlier, typical multiples for buying an agency might be around 3 times EBITDA. But often founders don't want to part with minority stakes. They don't see a reason. And so we have to sometimes offer a little bit more to encourage them to do that. But we're comfortable doing that as long as we know that we can, 2 or 3x the business, which is going to give us a really good rate of return.
And the CEOs are in place. Do you hire a new one? Do the previous founder, do they have a team in place, or how has it been so far?
Yeah, sure. So far I've only done minority investments, and that was on purpose. If you do a majority investment, if you buy a company, you often have to replace the founder because their incentive to then grow the company even further is largely removed. That's why I've done minority investments, because the founder is then still heavily incentivized to stay on and grow the business if they own a majority share. So I find great founders who want to sell a minority share, who we can help grow the business. And all the founders have stayed on so far. So we haven't had to do that. At some point, we probably will do a full buyout, and I'll have to go through that process. But I think that'll be a big learning curve, and that's probably the biggest risk for me in M&A.
If we take like a 10 out of 10 business, you keep your eyes on, they're doing very well. Still, they have some things to improve. How would you describe your ideal target B2B agency which you would like to acquire or make an investment?
Yeah, it's difficult because they're not, in a particular industry or anything like that. But really, it's all about the founder. So Andrew Wilkinson had a good quote recently where he said something like, "People are just going to do what they want, regardless of what you tell them." It's a bit like riding an elephant. So you just have to hope that the elephant's going to go in the direction you're wanting to go in. So you shouldn't work with a founder that you think you can, shape their direction and control them. Really, they're just going to go in their own direction. So you just have to find a founder that you believe is going to do great things. And you can coach them and advise them, but you're not going to change their mind on things.
Have all the investments gone in a way as you expected?
So far, we're still fairly early days. I've only been investing for a few years. But yeah, so far they're all going well. Maybe not always as fast as we would like. We set some fairly ambitious goals when we start, but they're all doing great, yeah.
What about the competition on deals, and who are you usually competing with?
Yeah, sure. So, if you're looking to sell your business or sell a stake in your business, you can look in a few different places. Private equity is obviously a competitor, but typically they don't look at the size deals that we're doing. So we're looking at very small companies, and it's just not worth their time to go through that whole process of investing or buying a company for a company that's only doing a few $100,000 in EBITDA. So we don't typically compete with them. What we're competing with, I guess, is the open market, but we typically do off-market deals. Mm-hmm. So often I will do outreach to find companies, or will be referred to someone. But typically we do off-market deals. So with an off-market deal, obviously, if they choose, they can go maybe work with a broker and put their business up for sale and find someone else. But that is a long, lengthy, and tiring process. So not everyone wants to do that.
What has been the size range so far when it comes to the deals you have done?
So the biggest company we've invested in was a SaaS company that are probably doing about 2 million a year in revenue. Mm-hmm. But we took a very small stake. Otherwise, they have all been, relatively small. But we're confident we can 2 or 3x that business in 18 months and turn it into a decent size agency.
Yeah, on your website as well, you said that the average business we investor buy grows by 2 to 3 times in 18 months thanks to our marketing investment. Has this become true, or you're just working on it still?
Yeah, I think it's holding true so far. Like I said, we are fairly early days in a lot of the investments that we have. So that one of the keys for us in investing is that we have to know how to grow them. So in every investment we do, we give them a marketing package where we give them a substantial amount of marketing for free. So we'll do that typically for 6 to 12 months post-acquisition. They'll get a free marketing package. And we can often predict with a high level of accuracy how many sales calls we're going to be able to book for them and their team. And obviously, if they already know their average conversion rate, we can figure out how many clients that's going to produce, what their customer lifetime value is, and we can pretty accurately predict what their revenue is going to look like 12 months post-acquisition.
Okay, and here is my next bit off-topic question. Sure. I recently made a small investment in a growth agency which focuses on very traditional business and revenue between 2 to 10 million, and these are the businesses which very often rely on referrals, and they really haven't done any marketing and sales and website.
Sure.
It's not very good, let's put it in this way. So this type of agency who would ideally serve these businesses, how should one grow this agency?
So there's probably many ways you can grow it. Our specialties are cold email and LinkedIn ads. Those are the two we are really, really good at. We've actually run more cold email campaigns for more companies than any other agency in the world, I believe. So cold email is probably the first place I'd start. I know a lot of people hate it, but if you do it well, it still works really well. LinkedIn ads possibly, but if they are traditional business owners that maybe don't use LinkedIn, then maybe that's not the best approach. I would probably focus on cold email. Also depends on the size of the market. With cold email, you get a hit rate, how many people book a sales call per 1,000 emails sent, and you have to have a big enough market for that to really work. It doesn't work if you've got a small niche market.
The question I get very often, because I'm a big fan in cold email and cold calls overall. I know how to create a list in Estonia because I have access to the database. How does it work in UK, USA? How do you build a list of emails so you could do your work pretty much?
Yeah, sure. So we actually built our own in-house tool. There's many out there you can use. So you can use a database, like Apollo or Sales Navigator or ZoomInfo, ListKit. There's lots of them out there to find the right people. And then you use an email finder, maybe like Drop Contact or an email finder and things like that. So you can use those to find the emails, but the key is also cleaning the emails. So you want to make sure that you don't have a high bounce rate, because if you do, it's going to harm your deliverability. You're going to harm the domains, and then that's going to cause issues. So we go through a two-step cleaning process where we'll clean the emails, and then we'll also go through another step just to make sure we get a really low bounce rate. So we average 2% bounce rate overall, which is pretty good. You want to make sure it's not above 5%. It's pretty key.
That's awesome. I just asked this because it's fascinating to hear an expert tell how it all works, because a lot of people struggle when it comes to building lists and finding the valuable information when it comes to those businesses. You mentioned a little bit about what you do post-acquisition, but how does the 30 days look like when you make an investment in an agency?
Post investment, we do like an alignment session. So we'll sit down, set goals together, set expectations, set out the schedule of meetings. So I'll typically meet with founders on Zoom every week. We also have like monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, so we can help set strategy, check the marketing's working, things like that. We're also setting up a lot of the marketing campaigns, so they'll work together with me and my agency to set up their campaigns, and then we're optimizing those over the space of the first 30 days to get those firing really well, so we can scale them up. And then sales process refinement. So one of the things that I'm good at is sales and the sales process. So I'll sit down with them and go through their sales process with a fine-tooth comb and help them refine that. That's what the 30 days really looks like.
Going back to this acquisition process, where you're saying you're using this 30-day process as well. Can you give us a brief overview on how it works? Because this is one of your advantages over brokers, larger PE firms. So tell us.
Yeah, I like to move quickly. So, if I meet a founder that I like, their business is great, they send me their information, I'll review that within a couple of days. If it's of interest, we'll often get back on another call and just make sure that we are both a good fit. That can all be done within a week. We then get a term sheet drawn up. We agree to the terms, and then we can usually have the equity agreement done within 2 weeks. So all that is usually done within under 30 days. We like to move quickly.
You mentioned you're focusing only on B2B agencies. I guess once you master the sales and marketing, there is a temptation to invest in other industries, other areas. How has it been for you, and how many opportunities from other industries are coming your way? Because I guess at the moment the the agencies, they know quite a lot already. You're just going in, you're just doing things better, and this makes a lot of difference, obviously. But at the same time, there are very boring businesses which never, they have an email address, but that's all. So how much temptation do you have towards those other industries?
Yeah, so I do have a couple of businesses that aren't in the online world, um, but honestly, they don't do great. They do just okay. So yeah, really, right now I'm just focusing on investing in businesses that I know how to help grow. I think that's the best way for us at the moment. It's always tempting to uh, go and invest in a different space that maybe has better longevity, less competition. Um, but I feel like I don't have an advantage in that space. There's many other people out there, um, you know, that will know how to grow those boring businesses, know how to operate them, and I don't. So I feel like I'll be going into a world that I don't know well, and that's probably not a good idea.
So a lot of people looking for different secrets, so-called, when it comes to investing, when it comes to growing the business. Of course, at the end of the day, it's probably those. It comes down to this industry expertise and what you have done before, and plenty of practice. On one of your posts, articles, you shared your unfair advantage, and you were saying that anyone with cash can start a holding company and buy businesses. However, you'll be competing against thousands of other holding companies and private equity outfits. I wanted to have an edge, so I played to my strengths. We covered a little bit your experience on in agency world marketing, but is there any secrets which you would bring out? What makes you better than maybe other holding companies, private equity firms?
Yeah, I think I've alluded to it already.
Mhm.
We're experts in growing these agencies, refining their sales processes, getting leads through the door, and that is my advantage because we've got a database of companies that we've already helped grow at our marketing agency. I've got that to look back on, and I can have a look back and say, is this a company that typically does well with cold email and LinkedIn ads? What's their typical CAC? And that allows me to make better decisions and invest in companies. So yeah, there's no other real secrets there. It's pretty open. And yeah, I would suggest anyone who's looking to invest ideally does the same. Look at your expertise, look at what you're good at, and look at what you know and where you have an advantage over other people.
You mentioned before finding people. Was it from Philippines? So when it comes to finding great talent, how has it been for you so far, and how do you find great talent for your businesses?
Yeah, I think before you start finding great talent, you've got to build a great culture because people want to work at companies that they love working at. So I focus a lot on culture, or I did when I was running the agency. That was the core of everything I did. I decided that my main job was to keep the team happy and build a good culture, and that's what I focus on every day. And when you do that, lots of people want to come work for you. So as a team, we traveled to over 10 countries together as a team within 6 years, and a lot of that was paid for by the company. So we built a culture, and then other people would hear about it, and through our network, we would end up. We hired most people through people that we knew because they had already heard what a great place it was to work. So that's how I did it within my team, and that's what I encourage our portfolio company leaders to do. In terms of finding, the founders that I work with, we haven't hired any founders yet. They've all been at the companies already, so haven't had to go through that process.
Okay, the traveling part. That's awesome that you mentioned that, because I found one tweet where you went to US. You rented a $7.5 million house in Newport Beach, California, and you flew your whole team, 16 people from UK, and you said it's worth every penny. What do you usually do on those trips? Do you just go there? Everyone has a free schedule, or what do you do? Is there some leadership coaching going on, or how has it been for you?
Yeah, it was a pretty awesome trip. That was not too long ago, actually. That was in January. So yeah, we flew all 16 of our team out there, and it was awesome. It's just great for building morale. If the accountant asked, we were there on solely business, of course. But yeah, we did some training as a team. We did some team building activities. We did lots of fun stuff. But really, the whole idea is just morale. We'd actually just hired a salesperson in the UK, but I wasn't in the UK when we hired him. And the first time he met the whole team was in San Diego. So he'd flown out on a plane by himself straight into a house where we're all staying together. So that was his first 2 weeks at the company. And I think that just sets the tone. It builds a lot of, a lot of goodwill up front. And I think that's really key in building a good culture.
Obviously, you have a lot going on. So how does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, sure. So I consider my job a sort of coach to the portfolio company leaders. On a day-to-day basis, I have weekly calls with each of them. We have numbers and KPIs that they report on each week and each month. So looking over those, and then I don't want to run any of the businesses, but if any of them have an issue, then I try and parachute myself in and offer my advice if I can. The rest of the time I spend, looking at new deals, doing outreach, speaking to founders, networking to meet new people and meet as many business owners as I can. Most deals I've done so far have sort of fallen in my lap. I think because of the sort of networking and that I do.
How often the CEOs of portcos reach out to you when they have an issue or something going on?
We speak on a weekly basis anyway, so they rarely reach out outside of that. They can usually wait until our weekly call. But there's always problems. Every business is just constant firefighting. That's what business is. So if I've experienced a problem before, then I'm just trying to talk them through it, help them understand that it's pretty normal, and that everything can be fixed. Yeah.
So a little bit about the mistakes you've made, because listening your story, you've done a lot with a reasonably short period of time. One, you have made, you built a successful agency, which probably most people never achieve. You grew this into a decent size, and then you started building a holding company. Of you made like 7, 8 acquisitions or investments so far. So what have been some of the, I call them lessons oftentimes, but let's call them mistakes, like where at the moment while I'm asking this question, you can think back like, okay, this was bad. And do you have anything like this?
Yeah, plenty of mistakes, lots of failures. So I actually wrote about this recently on my newsletter, but I think I only really have one regret. I would say I don't tend to regret things. And this was before I started the holdco. I was running the agency, and I decided that the cold email space wasn't sexy enough. It wasn't, didn't have enough longevity. So I saw everyone on Twitter out building SaaS companies which had huge margins and were growing really fast. And I thought that's what I need to do. But I wasn't a technical founder. I have no programming experience. So I went out on Upwork. I hired an agency to build it for me. I spent a load of money. They told me it'd be finished in 3 months. And of course it wasn't. 12 months later, they still hadn't finished. They'd spent all the money. They refused to finish it because they ran out of money. And we never launched. And unfortunately, I made that mistake 4 times in 3 or 4 years. I spent 3 or 4 years, thousands of hours of my time trying to start these billion-dollar companies. And then I hired a business coach, and he said to me, what's your life goal? And I said, just to make 5 million and be financially secure. And if I wanted to, I could live off the interest. And he said, okay, well, these businesses you're starting, is that towards the goal of building, getting 5 million? And I was like, no, I guess they're, billion-dollar outcomes. And I wasn't really sure why I was starting them. They just, were shiny objects that I was chasing. And then I looked inwards and I was like, okay, so my agency, which I've been neglecting for a few years, is still going strong. If I want to get to 5 million, why don't I just double down on that? And that's what I did. And 12 months later, we doubled the size of the agency, and it's thriving. And so my biggest mistake was really not setting my goal and then working backwards and figuring out how to get to that goal. It was just looking at shiny objects everywhere and just chasing the one that looked the prettiest. Yeah.
So has this now, as you've grown the agency and you've seen how the compounding and all that works, is the number still 5 million or is it more?
Yeah, the moving goalposts. The goalpost is always moving. um, yeah, I'll use the excuse of inflation. Inflation's pushing that number up, but the number's slightly higher now, but it's not too much higher. Me personally, I just want to live a great life. I don't want to sacrifice hundreds of hours during my 20s and 30s to get there. I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Work Week and the semi-retiring early and doing all the things you want to do now, living like a millionaire now, even though you don't have the money. So yeah, I optimize for lifestyle a lot. So while my goal is, in the 5 to 10 million range, I'm not going to sacrifice lifestyle to get there, and I'm certainly not going to work 100 hours a week for the next 10 years to try and get to $1 billion. That doesn't interest me anymore.
A question about focus. What is your take when people say that you will do so much better if you're focusing on one company instead of building a holding company? I'm asking this question because I know there are agencies which do 8 to 9 figures in revenue, highly profitable. Why not pursue the agency space when, like, you're so good at it? Why you decided to start making those investments?
Yeah, sure. I think this comes down to a couple of things. Are you in the right business? The cold email space is quite difficult. The industry is becoming saturated. There's only probably 1 or 2 players that are doing 8 figures. There's definitely none doing 9 figures that I know of. So that's a very difficult space to build an 8-figure company. And I'm not sure that's what I want to do. And the other thing is diversification. So if I go down that route, I'm putting all my eggs in that basket. And there's a lot of luck in business. Something can happen, a business can get wiped out, an industry can change, AI could eat the industry. And so if you put all your eggs in one basket, you're living with a lot of risk. And I don't like that. I wanted to take some of that risk off the table. I think one of the best ways to do that is to diversify the portfolio.
Now, a little bit about your personal career, if we can say that. Like, has there been any moments where you found success in what you did, and then your belief sort of grow, and maybe you can describe this period and maybe what brought to you into this stage?
Yeah, I don't think there was any one particular moment that gave me that confidence and that belief, but I think there's a lot of small signs along the way. Going from spending many years earning very little money in my early 20s, when this business started and finally took off very quickly, the agency, that gave me a lot of belief. I was like, okay, it can happen. I was right. If I stuck at it, it's going to work. And yeah, there's just a lot of small things along the way that give you confidence. But yeah, nothing, no one thing in particular.
Who has been the most influential person in your professional journey, and why?
As I've said, I like the work of Andrew Wilkinson. I'm really impressed with what he's built and how he's gone about it. But for me, I think I'd probably have to say Tim Ferriss. I know it's a little bit cliche, but the 4-Hour Work Week was a very influential book for me. If I hadn't read it, I'm not sure where I'd be today. It's hard to say. But yeah, the 4-Hour Work Week really sort of shaped the life I wanted to live and how I was going to go about it. So I'd probably have to say Tim Ferriss.
And when it comes to future, present and the future, what motivates you today? And it's 2024. What about 2030? What is going on?
Yeah, there's that fear of losing it all that's always there. I'm not sure if that ever goes away. I hope it does one day. But there's that drives me. But really, I just love what I do day to day. And I want to work hard to make sure I can continue doing this. I really love it and I don't want to stop. And so, yeah, I'm really working towards just making sure I can do this for as long as I want to do it for.
Is there any thoughts of buying to sell, or you just prefer to just buy, keep building the business?
Yeah, ideally just keep building. Yeah, the goal really is to build, a strong set of companies that are just going to operate forever, or as close to forever as possible. I don't see the point in selling, because what would I do with the money? I'd put it into an index fund and get 7 or 8% a year back. And then, it's the same thing. You have to invest your money somewhere to make sure you don't get eaten by inflation. So I'd rather invest it in companies that I've personally vetted than some portfolio someone else has built.
How has entrepreneurship and building Petsco changed your life and changed your family life?
I've kind of been this way for quite a long time. So my partner is very used to me being a bit obsessed, and she knows that I'll probably never leave the game, because that's what it is as a game, and I love to play it. So yeah, it really shapes a lot of my life, but I don't let it dominate my life. I like to live a good lifestyle. I do a lot of things throughout the week. I don't just work. So yeah, but also the money is very helpful. It helps you live the life you want to live and have the freedom you want. Also the freedom of location. So in the last 7 years, I've probably worked from about 20 different countries. So love to travel, and really the businesses allow me to do that.
It's our first call. We haven't talked before. You seemed like a really happy and relaxed. Has it been always like this?
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think so. I live in a very small town called Newquay in the UK. It's a little surf town. It's a little bit hippie, and I love it here. Yeah, I've just I really run my business so that I can live the lifestyle I want to live, and not the other way around.
Awesome. Let's wrap up with a famous five. How old are you?
I'm 32.
Favorite book?
The 4-Hour Workweek.
Married, single, kids?
I'm recently married and I have 1 fur baby.
What car do you drive?
I have a Range Rover Sport.
What's the best investment advice you've ever got?
Probably maybe the quote from Andrew Wilkinson recently that said, yeah, founders are like elephants, and you just have to hope they're going in the direction you want to go.
I'm sure there are a lot of investors who would like to reach out. There's a lot of business owners, agency owners who would like to ask how to grow an agency, maybe some clients, and maybe some who would like to sell their agency to you. So where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter. So it's @Liebets_. And yeah, more than happy to chat. So feel free to drop me a DM.
That's awesome. Thanks again, Lee, for doing this. I really enjoyed this, because this is a fascinating model where you can just run a very profitable agency and then reinvest all those profits into other agencies. So it's like a massive flywheel. And at the age of 32, you're doing all this. I don't even want to know what's going on when you're 52.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hopefully I'll be sipping margaritas on a beach somewhere, but who knows?
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Cheers, man.